here. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background, you are welcome here to join us as we proclaim worth in our spiritual journeys. You are welcome to join us as we sing songs that uplift our very beings. We welcome you. Eastrose acknowledges that for at least 13,000 years, many tribes and bands have made their lives here, where our church home and our communities now exist. We remember and honor these people who made their homes in this land, the ones here now and those who lived here before. In peace, may we share this land and honor one another. Okay, let's take a moment to greet each other here today, both in the chapel and online. So we'll start with online. So please stand and face the cameras by the clock on the back wall and wave hello to our friends online. And then you can turn to your neighbor and say hello. Today's a great day because you get a long chance to continue talking at our potluck after the service. So hopefully you can make it and do a lot of talking there. For our online guests, if you would like to share a joy or sorrow during that portion of the service, you can do so by entering it on the YouTube chat, and those will be shared aloud with everyone. I also encourage you to identify yourself in the chat so we may better acknowledge your presence with us today. Okay, and now we have a responsive call, and this is number 657 in the gray hymnal. And It Matters What We Believe by Sophia Lyon-Faz. So yellow's the call, it's what I read, and then the response is your part in the large white letters. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way to wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are pliable, like the unsightly
It matters what we believe.
As we light our chalice this morning, excuse me, let us consider the words of Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, acts of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Thank you.
The opening words are from Stanley Kunitz, The Layers. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn, exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go, wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road is precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus-clouded voice directed me, live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. The opening hymn will be number 38 in the Gray Hymnal, Morning Has Broken by Eleanor Farjan. Please rise as you are willing and able in body and spirit and sing. Okay, now we are going to have a time for all ages. The Family Minister Coordinator, Tara Toler.
Good morning. Faith is a powerful force. It's like an invisible strength inside us, a deep trust in something we can't always see or prove. Faith can be believing in ourselves, in others, or in ideas bigger than us. It helps us keep going when things get tough or encourages us to try new things. Faith might mean believing that your scraped knee will heal, or trusting that your grown-up will be there to pick you up after school. Faith might mean hope for a better future, or trust in the goodness of humanity. Faith doesn't mean the same thing to everyone, and that's okay. Today's story is a simple yet profound look at faith. We'll see faith as something like planting a tiny seed. We can't see what's happening beneath the ground, but we trust that with care and patience, something wonderful will grow. But faith isn't always easy. Sometimes others may doubt us. We might even doubt ourselves. Faith can be wobbly, yet it's in moments of uncertainty that faith often matters the most. As we listen to this story, let's think about our own experiences with faith, in ourselves, in others, and in the world around us. How do we keep believing when faced with doubt, and what can grow from the seeds of faith that we plant? This story is called The Carrot Seed by Ruth Krause and illustrated by Crockett Johnson. A little boy planted a carrot seed. His mother said, "I'm afraid it won't come up." His father said, "I'm afraid it won't come up." And his big brother said, "It won't come up." Every day, the little boy pulled up the weeds around the seed and sprinkled the ground with water. But nothing came up. And nothing came up. Everyone kept saying it wouldn't come up. But he still pulled up the weeds around it every day and sprinkled the ground with water. And then one day, a carrot came up, just as the little boy had known it would.
That's a big carrot.
It is a big carrot. Today's story was short, but through just a few words and pictures, we can see what it means to have faith and to take faithful action. And now we'll leave the grown-ups to continue the conversation while we enter our classroom. The adults along the center aisle will form a bridge. We'll sing the children out.
Now is
We generally think that compassion occurs when we see someone suffering and take action to ease that suffering. May we have faith in our ability to recognize our missteps, our hurtful words, our lack of good judgment at times. And may we also recognize and be grateful for our ability to be kind to ourselves and to others, to actively forgive and let compassion serve us as we journey through this life together. And I'm sorry. The heartstone. Oh, the heartstone.
Mary's doing the heartstone to represent all the joys and concerns that were not shared.
Okay. Please remain seated and, if you will, sing number 396 in the gray hymnal. I know, I know this rose will open. The words will be projected on the screen.
I'll play it once and then we'll sing it twice. Not around.
The reading is Cherish Your Doubts by Robert T. Weston. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth. Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It is the servant of discovery. A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief. Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which eats away the false. Let no one fear the truth, that doubt may consume it. For doubt is a testing of belief. The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It is not shaken by the testing. For truth, if it be truth, arises from each testing stronger, more secure. Those that would silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands. But those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on the rock. They shall walk in the light of growing knowledge. The work of their hands shall endure. Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help. It is to be to the wise as a staff to the blind. Doubt is the attendant of truth. So our speaker today, many of you already know her, is Gloria Holland. She returns to Eastrose for the third time, correct? She's a member of the UU Congregation of Salem and has served as a celebrant since 2008 and is a member of the UUCS Homilist Storyteller team ever since 2021.
So I didn't want to take my chances. In the summer, am I being heard? Okay, good, thank you. In the summer, back in the summer of 1970, a good friend asked if I'd be interested in working for a week as an advisor for a group of middle school girls at the Silver Creek Falls Y Camp. I knew nothing about Y Camp or advising or, ye gods, middle school girls. So I said, sure, I'd love to. I had graduated from the University of Oregon with a degree in sociology and spent most of the year living in San Francisco, worked at odd jobs, and I was a newlywed. I'd returned to the Willamette Valley with absolutely no plans, no direction at all. So when the opportunity presented itself for me to spend a week engaging in a new adventure at Y Camp, I thought, well, it sure can't hurt. So off I went. I'm just not doing this right, apparently. Anyway, off I went. There were 7 or 8 girls, all about 13 years old, assigned to my cabin. My job was to stay in the cabin with them, make sure they made it to their activities and classes, got some sleep, and maybe patch up any problems that might arise. Now, one might think that spending a week with 8 13-year-old girls would drive any normal person completely bonkers. But I discovered that I love these girls. I love them. These girls were curious, sensitive, sassy, self-indulgent, enthusiastic, and smart. We had a blast. Now, upon my return home to my new spouse, I enthusiastically told him that I thought I might have found a profession, one that, social work had not been a very good fit for me, so I thought, well, I'll go back to school. So I did. I returned to school, and this time it was at Oregon College of Education, which is now Western Oregon University. And I completed my course of studies, and I was hired to teach 7th grade English and Social Studies at Whitaker Junior High in Kaiser, Oregon. Who would ever have thought that one random week at a Y camp could change the direction of a person's life? That first year at Whitaker, though, 1971, was pretty horrible. The school was at the end of a 3-year experiment in education, which from my view was a complete disaster. The kids were actually running wild in the halls all day long, and I was given an assignment I was not qualified for. I started the year with no supplies, no textbooks, no curriculum, and very little support. My dream of saving the world from itself was pretty shortly dashed. And I cried a lot. I was lost, confused, and rather terrified. I was completely surprised when at the end of the year, I was rehired. Who knew? It actually took quite a few years for me to find the confidence in myself as a qualified teacher. Although I learned how to write creative lesson plans, I struggled with classroom management. I mean, it was middle school after all. And while I became an integral part of the 8th grade English Social Studies team and generally received pretty good evaluations, I was always questioning my abilities. I didn't have much faith in myself, and I was always asking the question, what right did I have to even be there? In time, I would take a sabbatical and earn a master's degree. At that year's end, with 15 years of teaching junior high behind me, I was moved to McKay High School in Salem, and I was assigned to teach English. Now, high school proved to be a completely new challenge for me. The kids were bigger, they were older, they were more focused generally. And gone were the days of kids running wild in the halls and shooting spitwads across the room all day long and kicking each other under the table, because that's what middle school students tended to do. But again, I was, as another teacher put it, woefully unprepared to teach at the high school level. Novels like The Great Gatsby and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn were on the curriculum, and I hadn't read those novels since high school, if I'd actually ever read them at all. I had a lot of catching up to do. While I struggled that first year to stay a day ahead of the kids, in the years to come, I spent every holiday and summer vacation reading, writing lesson plans, and creating hands-on activities. People began describing me as energetic, enthusiastic, and creative. My evaluations continued to be positive, and my classroom management skills improved tremendously. But still, I questioned. I had doubts about my abilities. I was pretty sure I wasn't doing enough. And I wasn't sure that the kids were actually really learning anything. More and more, I began to secretly feel like a fraud. That feeling, it just got stronger and stronger and stronger every day. Now, at one point, and I've been in the classroom about 17 years at this time, I began to have a recurring and very overwhelming fantasy that I would be discovered, found out, confronted, and fired. I began to believe that I hadn't really earned my degrees, that I'd only gotten the good grades because the professors liked me, right? In my fantasy, I saw myself as a fraud, an impostor, a criminal, really, who didn't deserve any of the positive notes I'd been receiving in my evaluations, or any of the public accolades I'd been receiving. And I certainly didn't deserve the honor of standing before these young people pretending to be an educator. If people only knew the truth. I remember one particular day very clearly, standing in front of my students, watching them work quietly and very strongly, believing that at any minute, my administrative team would enter my room. They would tell me that there had been an unfortunate hiring error, that they'd looked into my work and into my grades and discovered that it had all been a big mistake. They would ask me to gather my things. They would escort me out the front door, and they would tell me to never come back. This is a true story. Somehow, I got through that day, and I just got through telling the story. It's tough. I got through the day, and I returned the next, and of course, none of my very peculiar fantasy became a reality. But in recent years, the phenomenon called the imposter syndrome has come to light. And I can tell you that it is very, very real. Looking back, I recognize that I was suffering from a crisis of faith. In this case, I couldn't find the faith in myself to accept that I belonged right where I was in that moment. Now, I find faith to be an intriguing concept. Most often, when the word faith is used, it seems to be connected with a Christian concept of a God or a higher power. We've all heard the expression, she's a woman of faith, meaning she's a believer in God. I actually went online in search of a definition of the word faith and found that almost all the definitions reference a belief in a Christian God. But according to definitions from the Oxford languages, faith is complete trust in someone or something. Some sources claim that faith means having trust in something for which there is no proof. So what kinds of things might we have faith or trust in? Well, it turns out that that's a darn good question if you really think about it. It took me a while to come up with some answers for myself. I love the story that she read because it makes reference to what I'm going to tell you now. As I was writing this, I was sitting at my kitchen table on a mildly sunny day in May with my back to the window that looked out over our deck on which sat the flowers I had just planted. I turned, and seeing the flowers, I realized in that moment that I had faith that these flowers and the vegetables that my husband Alan had just planted, that these would grow, produce beautiful flowers and vegetables that we would enjoy in August. I had no proof, but I did have faith. And I have faith in my friendships. Over the years, I've cultivated several friendships that I simply know will last a lifetime. I'm good friends with a woman I met when I was 5 years old, and although we don't see eye to eye on politics or religion, I know that this friendship will last until the end. And this is actually the case with many of my friends. I have faith that the world will go on. It will change. It will look different for my grandchildren. But the sun will come up, the moon will glow bright at night, and the sand beside the ocean will feel wonderful beneath our feet. But then the truth is, we have our doubts. There was a time not that long ago when we had faith in our institutions, our government, our elections, our medicine, our food supply, and our schools. But today, with contention dominating the political sphere and with media spewing fear and trauma on the airwaves, with gun violence and book banning and homelessness and the ongoing crisis in Latin America, causing a humanitarian crisis at the border, it's easy to doubt that things will ever improve. Unfortunately, there are many today who have forsaken their faith in any of our institutions and actually live in a constant state of fear and trauma. They doubt that any good could ever come from any of the common sense laws or cultural norms that we used to rely on. They are consumed with doubt. And then there are those who are consumed with faith, whether it's faith in a political party, in science, in money, stature and privilege, or in God. Some people seem to believe without a smidgen of a doubt that what they believe to be true is absolute. There is no doubt whatsoever in their thinking. I was teaching. I was privileged to have the opportunity to teach a unit on the novel The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is when I become a teacher, so excuse me. I'm going to explain it a bit here. Well, while this story gives us many messages about the American dream, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and unrequited love, it also offers a good lesson in faith. In the novel, Jay Gatsby engages in a love affair with a very rich girl named Daisy Fay. Soon after, Gatsby leaves for World War I, and Daisy moves on with her life, marrying a very rich man named Tom Buchanan. When Gatsby returns from the war and learns that Daisy has married and moved to Long Island, he devises a plan to gain Daisy's attention and love. Now, James Gatz grew up poor on a farm in South Dakota. As Jay Gatsby, he acquires a bundle of money through illicit bootlegging activities and buys an enormous mansion across the bay from Daisy's equally enormous mansion purchased by Tom Buchanan's old money. Gatsby believes without any doubt that if he's rich enough, popular enough, charming enough, that he will gain Daisy's attention. And she will forsake her husband and family to be forever with the real love of her life, Gatsby. He has complete faith in a future that exists only in his mind. And when tragedy strikes and Gatsby takes the blame for Daisy's reckless actions, Gatsby is convinced that Daisy will come to him. The ending here is tragic, with the impostor Gatsby losing everything, including his life. But he dies with his faith intact, a faith that eventually destroys him. Many of us here today, including myself, have experienced a time when we doubted the existence of God, have been told to not doubt, to not question, to simply have faith. Our great Gatsby provides a perfect illustration of what can happen when one relies completely on faith and will not allow doubt to enter into one's thinking. The Reverend Judy Wells, from a sermon given at the First Unitarian Society of Brooklyn, offers this, and I quote, "When you have faith in something, you put the whole meaning of your life into it. You base all of your actions on it. You have posited the meaning of your life in that faith. If you are wrong, then the very meaning of your life is threatened." End of quote. Finding the courage to question our faith in God or science or institutions or the future of our planet can be bone-cold chilling. So the question is, what really is the relationship between faith and doubt? Is it possible to embrace both? Some might say it's impossible to have faith in anything, even science, because everything changes, nothing remains constant. So having faith is impossible. Others might say we must cling to faith for our very salvation, and doubt is not an option. If we have faith in a higher power, is there room for doubt? If we find faith in the constancy of the seasons, or in our relationships, or in the kindness of humanity, will doubt threaten the way we live in this world? At my congregation in Salem, UUCS, at the end of each of our services, we say these words: "May we have faith in the spirit of life." Is there any room for questioning our faith in the spirit of life? Speaking not just of faith in a higher power, but rather faith in general, author and amateur theologian Stephen D. Morrison states, and I quote, "Faith includes doubt. And doubt confirms faith. Faith and doubt are therefore not mutually exclusive of one another. They are mutually inclusive. Perhaps the answer to the faith versus doubt dilemma can be found in what we choose to have faith in. That young teacher who so many years ago became overwhelmed with doubt and fear that her teaching career would abruptly end when the truth came out and she would be fired, had lost faith in herself as a competent professional and chose really to put doubt at the forefront of her thinking. The fictional Jay Gatsby lost his life when he became consumed with a faith in something that never really existed, except only in his mind. Perhaps it's balance we must look to. We may have faith in a higher power, faith in humanity, faith in our friendships, and faith in ourselves. But we may also have our doubts, healthy doubts, honest doubts, courageous doubts. Invite your doubts in. Listen to them. Let them sit a while. Play with them. And when the time comes, send your doubts on their way as you grow in your faith, whatever that might be. And let's remember that faith, trust, and confidence give our lives meaning, while doubt brings wisdom. In the words of author Lillian Smith, faith and doubt are both needed, not as antagonists, but working side by side to take us around the unknown curve. Thank you, and blessed be. And now, if you would please rise as you are willing and able in body or spirit, and sing number 347 in the gray hymnal, Gather the Spirit, by Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter Jim Scott. The words will be projected on the stage, and thank you very much.
half of each week's Sunday collection is shared with a local organization doing good works in our area. And this third quarter, our Sharing the Bounty partner is Outgrowing Hunger. Outgrowing Hunger builds and operates community farms and gardens for refugees, immigrants, and people who care about affordable access to real food in Portland and Gresham. Outgrowing Hunger is a contract operator for all the community gardens programs in Gresham, including the one out here in Nadaka Park, and many of the gardens in East Portland. They also have a 22-acre farm in Boring, where they rent irrigated farmland to qualified growers. Now, if you are a first-time visitor, please let the basket pass you by. You are our guest today. We now gratefully receive the gifts of this congregation.
As we extinguish the chalice, help us to be the ever hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, as without light, nothing flowers. This comes from May Sarton. Go today in peace.
And finally, announcements. There'll be, of course, announcements in the petals, so please read those. Some other announcements. We have on Saturday, August 17th, in the Dhaka Nature Park, there's going to be a fellowship picnic. August 17th, Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And those of you who remember, Dhaka Park came into being through a community effort, and Eastrose was part of that effort. Another announcement, and I believe it's Tuesday, right, Patty? The OMSI Science Pub. Okay, join us at OMSI Science Pub to learn more about climate change's impact on our vulnerable communities. Local scientists and authors of the most recent federal climate assessment will discuss key findings about impacts on the U.S. and Pacific Northwest underserved and frontline communities. The event is at 7 p.m. Meet Patty Walsh, Ann Ness, and friends in the lobby of the Empirical Theater at 6:30. $5 tickets can be purchased in advance on the OMSI website. Please let Patty know if you are interested. That is Tuesday, right? Yeah. Tuesday. Another announcement here from Katie Norris, our new and bright new board president. The first board meeting of the year was yesterday. The next one will be September 19th at 3 p.m. by Zoom. Anyone who wishes may attend, and it's open to the entire congregation. We'll publish call-in information in pedals before each monthly meeting. And our final announcement is the service now ended, so if you're here at Eastrose, you're invited to remain, have some coffee and visit, and join the potluck. We hope to see you all next week. Bring a friend.